for that very exciting music to start us off on today's webinar. My name is Jacqueline Waihenya. I will be moderating today's seminar, and I'm looking forward to you enjoying every minute of it. The seminar has been organized by the Mombasa Law Society's Ladies Chapter. And before we go into the nitty-gritty of a very distinguished lady whom I will be introducing to you shortly, I would like to invite our chairman, Matthew Nyabena, to welcome us.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for this opportunity. It's a great day that the ladies have decided to host this event. We are hosting the future Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, whom we are very happy to host today. And we wish her all the best as she does her interview. It will be a pleasure to have a lady as a Chief Justice, and actually to have two ladies head the judiciary. Having said that, it's also a wonderful time as Mombasa Law Society to be hosting these events and have discussions about issues actually touching on gender. Personally, I believe the female gender is a gender whose time has come. The female gender is taking over, and us in the male gender should be very worried, but there's no need to worry. We are usually very safe in the hands of our ladies. So I do not wish to say much. It's an opportunity today to listen to our guests, to have your questions and possibly get a few answers. I'll be listening to all this, and I hope that walking out of here, I'll be a better man and a better leader. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Nyabena. Our chief guest, Prof, we have so many distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are joining us today. Many of the ladies that you see have had the opportunity to engage in legal studies and have become advocates of the High Court of Kenya. Others are professionals from different backgrounds. All of them are gladiators in the courtrooms. All of them are gladiators in the boardrooms. Some represent us in the august house, and all of us ask many questions relating to our gender, particularly when it comes to questions on life, career, and family. We are from different backgrounds, we are different ages, we have different experiences, and we are all looking forward to hearing from you. Before I introduce Professor to the panelists and the attendees and everyone present, allow me also to indicate that as moderator, I will be assisted by very able young counsel, Christine Carey Nfiga and Mary Njao. Christine Carey is a prosecutor with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. She holds a master's in law. Of course, she's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. She is the wife and the mother of a young child. Also, Mary Njao, the other co-moderator, works with the Attorney General's chambers. She is a family-friendly policies activist. She believes in environmental justice, and I'm quite sure as we interact with her, she will also have questions to ask about her areas of interest. I will mention the unmentionables because she is a champion of breastfeeding for young mothers in public places. Professor, who will be presenting to us today, I think she wrote the law and the book on women in law. She is a distinguished lady. She has been a lady of firsts. She has done so much in academia that it is impossible for us to summarize it in an introduction like today's, or even do justice to her qualifications and her abilities and all that she has achieved for us. The major first that she has accomplished is that she was the first lady professor in law, and this she accomplished in 2011. She was the first dean of a law school, and that was the School of Law in the University of Nairobi. More recently, she was the first professor to attain a higher doctorate of Doctor of Laws, also from the University of Nairobi. And when she presented her work, it was described as mesmerizing. She has been a mentor to many. When she was dean, the University of Nairobi scored a record number of doctorates who were developed and who were awarded with a PhD in law. She recruited very many young academics. She modernized our university. And for us here in Mombasa, we are extremely grateful because it was under her watch that the satellite campuses in Kisumu and Mombasa were established. She has been decorated in so many universities around the world, and she is recognized as a global leader. In addition to that, she is a senior counsel, an accolade that she accomplished in 2012, and she has published no less than 15 books, 4 theses, 20 book chapters, and numerous articles. She is a member of the Committee of Eminent Persons, and that was an accolade that she was granted by His Excellency the President in 2006, and in 2015, she achieved, or she was awarded with the Elder of the Burning Spear. I can say that Prof is my mentor as well because she supervised my personal LLM project, and I graduated last year under her guidance. And she has mentored so many others, including Carey, who is also on the panel with us today. She has mentored so many of the teaching faculty here at the University of Nairobi. She has mentored so many people, not only in this country, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in the United Kingdom, in the United States of America. The list is endless. Today, we are recognizing the International Women's Day that was held on the 8th of March. It is the 110th International Women's Day. Mombasa Law Society is turning 110 years this year. I can tell you that the last congregation that Professor Mbote attended in relation to International Women's Day was at Harvard Law School, where she was recognized for outstanding work. And all I can say is that we are truly honored and privileged to have the presence of Professor Dr. Kameri Mbote, Dean Emeritus, Senior Counsel, addressing us on the question of life, career, and family. Welcome, Professor Mbote.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for your very generous introduction. I will share my screen so that we can get into, let me just do that. Okay. I'm trying to get it. Okay. You can see my screen?
Yes, Prof, we can.
Yeah, so let me go to the beginning. It is really my distinct pleasure this afternoon to share with you on women in law, life, career, and family. And I have a number of points. I'll try to keep to the time allotted me, so don't worry that there are many points. What I want to do is to organize my mind. I'll have an introduction, and then I'll ask the question whether we can have it all, and then attempt to talk about who am I, what are the life hacks or nuggets that I've learned along the way, and then I will conclude. So like I've said, I am very happy to be here to share thoughts with members of the Mombasa Law Society. When I was dean, I met with the members a lot more when I visited the Mombasa campus. And let me also say that Dr. Sarah Kinyanjui always throws me in the deep end. And so when she throws me in the deep end, it is my duty to swim, not to sink. I also throw her in the deep end for the many years that we've worked together. So I wish I could say that women can have it all, say a categorical yes, or maybe say no, but. Because if I said that, then we could all come up with tenets for a do-it-yourself manual. And in a world where there are so many life hacks for everything, there is a temptation to genericize all our experiences through answers we get from Mr. Google. And I like to challenge us to always ask ourselves whether the people who give us answers on Google are competent to instruct us or to speak into our lives. So maybe that is a question we should leave there and keep thinking about it. So I'd like this session to be real or authentic. I want us to be introspective. I want us to be up close and personal. And it is very important to be self-aware. And so the question, who am I, is a big part of this presentation. And when I'm talking about who am I, I'm talking about what are my values? What are my non-negotiables? And remember that your values and non-negotiables must be with you, or they must exist before you are in the crucible. And I use the crucible here to mean those boiling point moments where you have to make a decision one way or the next. To be able to share, one has to be vulnerable. And this is not an easy thing for lawyers, because as lawyers, we've been taught that winning is everything. But if we are going to answer the question whether we can have it all truthfully, we must be vulnerable. Otherwise, we will just be giving the standard answers. So I tried to look for a woman with a black face. I couldn't get one. So this is the woman I have. And I'm sure very many women know what this feels like. That wherever you are, you travel with these competing demands of your family, of your career. You want to thrive as an individual. So you want to keep up to your fitness goals. You want to visit your salonist. You want to do a facial. You want to do a manicure. You even want to go to a wellness space where you just sit by yourself and basically take it all in. And the question is, how in a 24-hour day do we balance and keep all these balls in the air? Because we have jobs. Many of us are in very critical spaces where we have to make very life-changing decisions for many people. And so what I'll do, I'll share the nuggets I've learned along the way. And I do hope that these will be useful and that it will encourage people to also begin to put their own nuggets together. And I think if I can say anything, even at this stage, the importance on staying on your own path is really, if you hear nothing else from me, please remember that you need to stay on your own path. So who am I? Who is Patricia Kameri? I am a believer in God. I've been married for 31 years. I have a 29-year-old son, 23-year-old daughter. I started my journey in law 1984, 37 years ago, and I've been an advocate of the High Court for 33 years. I have been teaching law for 32 years. These are things that you can find out from public spaces. But what I like to talk about is, what is it that people see or do not see when they look at me in answering that question of who am I? And I like to say that people see a great life. Indeed, I've had a great life and fulfilling life by God's grace. I really and truly enjoy what I do. I've been blessed in life and in my career as I have navigated many setbacks between my blessings. I'm senior counsel, Stanford alumnus, leading professor, globally widely traveled, highly networked with high-value research networks. I am a prolific writer. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying what people see and probably what you know. So when Faith Money asks me, what do we know about you? I usually tell her to Google me, and she thinks that's so arrogant. So it's a personal joke between me and her. I am a teacher and a mentor of very many. So what don't people see? What people don't see in who I am is my struggles to juggle life as a woman, as a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. with many demands on my life. And there are no compartments between my public and my private life. So I am not once a mother and the next day a professor of law. It's all in one package. So if my spouse, child, parent, sibling, friend needs me, I need to show up and do the needful. And of course, that doesn't excuse me from my duties in the public space. So multitasking, rising up early, and tight schedulings are things I have mastered. I don't think that there is a day I have risen up when the sun was up. I mean, I always get up before sunrise, but I also sleep early. So being a wife, a parent, a homemaker, a nation builder, and remaining at the top of my game as a leading academic requires me to multitask, to rise up early, and to be very tightly scheduled. So I have no option but to be intentional, to be authentic or real, to be truthful to myself, to be decisive, because I am only one person. And in navigating the complexities of my life, I've had many I can't breathe moments. And, I use this phrase, I can't breathe. It came from George Floyd. You remember the African American who had a cop kneeling on their neck and they were saying, I can't breathe. So both literally and metaphorically, because, when you are under immense stress, you can't breathe. And in fact, many people will tell you, take deep breaths when you're stressed, take deep breaths. So I have had many I can't breathe moments in the private and public spaces. And I can't breathe moments. Now, when you call them that, they sound all fancy, but they are the many painful and deeply personal moments which make sleeping at night or waking up in the morning difficult. And because I'm Patricia, everybody expects me to cope. Because, I like hearing my friends who say, Patricia, you're a strong person. So in essence, nobody expects you to drop the ball. And maybe there are many Patricias here. In the job in public, the private still demands of you and vice versa. I like telling the joke that even as we are sitting here in the webinar, there is a woman, or even in a big board meeting, there's a woman who gets that text, gas imeisha, or maziwa imeisha. And you are supposed to now plan on how gas will get home, even as you're trying to lead the meeting that you're at, which is so far removed from gas and from milk. So when you're in the house also trying to do your private chores, the public demands. So it's not unusual for you to be called on because something in the office demands your attention pronto. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that many times we think that when you have young children, those are the only demands. But you see, as you grow older, you have sick and aging parents. Then as you grow older, you have a demanding job. Children's visiting days all converge. I remember vividly 2015, I was dean and my father was taken ill. And he needed to go to India. And I have siblings, but my approach to life is that my parents are my mother and my father. It doesn't matter how many other children they have. And then my daughter was in boarding school and her visiting day was around the same time. And I remember navigating so finally, flying to India, getting everything done, going on a Thursday and being back to be at my daughter's school on the Saturday. And what has occurred to me is that being a parent or being a child of a parent is a lifetime assignment, because there is no time that you will say that you have outgrown being your parent's child and that your children have outgrown being your children. And because of this very intricate merging of public and private spaces, most battles for women are won or lost in the private space. So for instance, when I was vying for elective positions or applying for jobs that are no-go areas for women, there is always the assumption, if you decide to apply for the job, that your private must be neat and tidy. And I wish that you could have a private that is neat and tidy. It never is and never can be. And navigating the space where you must keep your private as neat and tidy as it can be, whilst you go for jobs that are no-go areas for women, can be actually draining for the one woman. So women actually join or ascend to public spaces awash with men's rules. So men's rules don't allow for these infractions of private spaces into the public. So when we want to be authentic, to be real as a woman, it is very difficult because you encounter what Gaire Nafin calls the man of law. And Gaire Nafin talks about law as having in mind not a woman, but a man, and not every man, but a particular kind of man, an entrepreneur, a man who has emphasized forms of masculinity. And that man of law is not every man, but it certainly is not a woman. So to become a woman of law is almost oxymoronic and an eternal work in progress, because it calls for us getting women's values into law and getting into the space on women's rules, not men's rules. And this is by making the norms, the processes, the institutions, and the spaces in law making them incorporate women's values so that the woman of law emerges. And actually, I'd like to challenge us to think about how would where we work be, how different would it be if we had women's norms, processes. If the norms, processes, institutions, and spaces brought in values of women, if the norms had values of women, processes had values of women, and therefore you are building a woman of law. In the quest to become a woman of law, I have learned a number of things. One critical lesson is that I do not need to have all the answers before I make a decision. It is better, in fact, for me to make a wrong decision than to make no decision. Edwin Friedman's book, Failure of Nerve, actually says that leaders of many institutions, whether it's homes, businesses, governments, fail not because they are unskilled or have no information, but because they lack the nerve and presence to stand firm in the midst of other people's emotional anxiety and reactivity. And what this is saying to us is do something. It is better to do something and realize that you could have done something different than to do nothing at all. So we shouldn't, and women tend to do this a lot, overanalyze, which leads to analysis paralysis. So you really never end up making any decision. So the fact that we have all this information coming at us doesn't help. So if you think about the information at your disposal, sometimes I wonder whether this information has helped or has hindered the way in which we operate, because it's like it is coming fast and furious. Even processing it is difficult. So the failure of nerve, which I was talking about here, is where we're saying that we are not failing because we have no information. In fact, now we have too much information. It is because we are not standing firm and making decisions, doing something when we are faced with the need to make decisions. So what are the life nuggets I've learned? And these are from varied sources. I've learned that life is like a difficult exam, which many fail because they try to copy others, not realizing that everyone has a different question paper. So if you begin to take somebody else's exam, then it will mean you're not answering the questions on your own question papers. I have learned that we are all leaders and we lead by example. Our passion, our zeal, innovation, ethics, and engagement actually are contagious and will get to other people and make them also want to follow what we do. I've also learned that it is important to live and be a person who strives for excellence in everything I do. And it's not that you will always attain excellence, but if I aim for excellence and I do not excel, I may just do a good or fair job. Whereas if I had only aimed for good or fair, then I may just end up doing a bad job. And in terms of family, I have learned that it is not who I am married to or what kind of children I have. It is why I am married and why I am a mother. And the person from whom this lesson for me has come alive is Abraham Lincoln, who says that marriage is neither heaven nor hell, it is purgatory. And for those of you from the Roman Catholic background, you know, purgatory is that place between heaven and hell. It is a place for pruning and purification. And actually, Abraham Lincoln says that his marriage prepared him to be president. So you never know why you are married or why your family situation is the way it is. So you need to be easy on yourself. You are only human. You're not superhuman. I've learned that I need to let go of baggage by forgiving myself and forgiving those who have wronged me. That I need to rise above those who betrayed me or let me down because it makes them feel small. I think I read somewhere that when you walk around with unforgiveness, it is like swallowing poison and expecting it to kill somebody else. So in forgiving, you do yourself a favor. I've also learned, and this is from the book and writings on footprints in the Science of Time, that I can make my life sublime and departing leave footprints in the sands of time. If I take my corner of the world and run with it, then perchance I will imprint some footprints in the sands of time. I've learned that if I find it in my heart to care for people, I will have succeeded. It gives me immense joy to just see people that I have cared for move along. And having been a teacher for many years, there is nothing that gives me as much joy as seeing people I have taught over the years excel. In fact, again, George Bernard Shaw has noted that in observing the lives of great men and famous women, it was those who did their work with zeal, commitment, and diligence that got to the top. So I have learned that fame and greatness follow actions when my motivation is to make a difference, not to be powerful or to merely earn a living. I have also learned to make every experience an opportunity, taking the approach that every person who shows up in my life comes for a reason and a season. Like for this afternoon, I am here for giving this speech or talking here for a reason. I will meet new people. I will reacquaint with people I know. I will learn something. I will build my network. And I will not leave how I started this afternoon. While I try to live my life with the end in mind, and I think one of the things that I have been challenged over the years is to just think, I will be dead one day. And when I'm dead, there is going to be a tombstone. What will be written there? What would I want to be written in the tombstone that will mark Patricia's grave? And I always come up with different one. But one of the things that I would not want people ever to lose sight of is that I lived my life to the full and I really enjoyed it. So I take my life as a series of moments that define who I am, but also who I am becoming. And even unpleasant events have a purpose to teach, prune, purify, and align my thoughts to God's higher purposes. I aspire to lead a purpose-driven life where I constantly ask myself, who am I? Why am I here? Who do I aspire to be? What drives me? What am I passionate about? I have learned the importance of taking risks. Many times we are so fearful of taking risks. And this is why they say that the graveyard is awash with unimplemented ideas whose holders were too afraid to implement them. So I try to set big, hairy, audacious goals that stretch me and grow me. Because in achieving those big goals, I become a bigger person. I develop new skills, attitudes, and capabilities. You know, when you, for instance, interview for a job that you don't get, you know, it's not all lost because you grow. Even if I do not achieve the goal, I will be stretched forever. I will not go back to the person I was before. So when I have goals I am passionate about, I deal with roadblocks, which will inevitably show up decisively. And I can actually describe myself as the eternal optimist who sees opportunity in every difficulty. And I am not the kind of person who sees difficulty in every opportunity. And you know, as women, we have to always ask ourselves when we are self-censoring, are we seeing difficulties in opportunities instead of seeing opportunities in difficulties? I agree again. Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, the former president of Liberia, is my favorite in terms of many of the things she said. That the size of my dreams must always exceed my current capacity to achieve them. And you know, that is what keeps me awake at night. And in fact, she says that if your dreams do not scare you or make you break into a sweat, they are probably too small. They are not big enough. I have learned that goals I set before I was 50 to be successful must give way to goals to be significant and leave a legacy as I navigate the post-50 terrain. I am not afraid to seek help. So I've learned that there is need to seek help. And I'm not afraid to seek help from those who have gone before me. I feel that it is okay not to know, and it is unlikely that I am the first to do what I want to do, and success leaves clues. So I find out who has already done what I want to do. If I find no one, I make my path by walking it. And probably then somebody else will find the clues that I left as I made my path by walking it. I have mentors to help me navigate challenges and choices in the public and private spaces. I cannot overemphasize the importance of having mentors, coaches, people that you can be honest with and that you trust to take you into the next realm. I do not have to be perfect, so I can seek help. I do not have to have all the answers. If I need counseling, I seek it. Again, borrowing from Cheryl Anderson's book, Lean In, I lean in by eliminating what I do not have to do and delegating tasks that can be delegated at home and in the office. So I'm not going to I am a good cook, but I always have to ask myself, is my time in a particular season best used cooking or doing something else? I need, and I have to ask myself, is this the best use of my time at this point? If it is not, then I can delegate that task. And for many women, delegating tasks is a difficult thing because it comes with being made to feel guilty about what you're not doing. And that then leads you to being overloaded. And I've also learned that not all battles must be won. In fact, not all battles that present to me must be fought. You must leave out some battles and lose some battles so that you win the wars. I have learned the importance of being balanced and I've been being a person of balance. and we study, rest, recreation, leisure. And I've also learned that developing a vibrant relationship with God nurtures my conscience. I do spend a lot of time in prayer, and over time, I have learned that nothing is too small or too big for God. I've learned that relations with family, friends, and colleagues are very important. And as far as I can, I make time for them. But having said that, I have the caveat that whilst it is important to be a friend of many people, you must keep the company of very few. And I remember once in my church when they said, can you identify the 4 people who would be your pallbearers? It sounds extremely morbid, but you need to think about if you were dead, who would be the 4 people? If you have more than 4, then you're very fortunate. And these are relationships you nurture over time. I have learned the importance of integrity, to keep one's word, to keep time, to take responsibility, to tell the truth even when it hurts. Because not being my word withdraws from my integrity account and can deplete it. And integrity isn't that thing that you hang on the wall. It is what you do when you think nobody is watching. And when you lack integrity, it doesn't just harm you, it doesn't harm me, it harms my family, my workplace, and my country. I've learned the importance of empathizing with others and being compassionate. And I've also learned that there are 3 kinds of people, and it is important to decide which category I am in. There are those who let it happen, there are those who make it happen, and there are those who wonder what happened. And usually I fall in the make it happen. So I'll be the kind of person who, when you're saying begin a new thing, I always say, build the field, the players will come. I have also learned to give with reckless abandon. And again, I think it's Jefferson who said that a candle loses nothing by lighting another. I've learned to have a heart of gratitude to God and others, to look at my glass not as half empty, but as half full. I have learned to go the distance by pacing myself as a marathoner, not a 100-meter dasher. And I've also learned to go the extra mile, because it is really never crowded on the extra mile. People just go to the ordinary distance, but the extra mile is not crowded. I've also learned from John Maxwell that choice is rarely between good and bad. It is actually between good and great. And actually, too much of good can be an enemy of becoming great. In terms of time, when I was young, I had lots of time in my hands. And I wish that people who are in their 20s realize that what they have is time. I probably took time for granted. And time moves, even if the minute and the hour hands of a clock become dysfunctional. Now, as I approach the 6th floor, I am aware of the 24 hours I have in a day, and I am judicious in how I spend it. I am careful not to waste my time on things that are not of value. So I endeavor to manage my time well, because I know once it is gone, I cannot recover it. And I also know that as I approach the 6th floor, I have time, but there are a lot more things in my time than there were in my 20s. I've learned, in fact, to run my race at my pace and in my lane. And this is a lesson that is so important for people coming up. You don't have to be running somebody else's race. If somebody has moved to a particular neighborhood, bought a particular car, is changing their clothes every day, good for them. But run your own race at your own pace and in your own lane. So can we have it all? And there's this clip that's going around of the Indian woman who was the CEO of PepsiCo, who said, we really cannot have it all as women. My view actually is that we can have it all. But what we need to do is to define what all means. I think our definition of all is the problem, because it is based, because we live in the world of the man of law. So our all is in the cast of the man of law. So we need to move from the man of law to the woman of law and ask ourselves whether we've set up ourselves up for a ride or a race we cannot ace or excel in. We need to reimagine what all, we're asking, can I have it all? We need to reimagine what all looks like for a woman of law. And this is not going to be generic. For Patricia, all is going to look a particular way. For Jackie, all is going to look a particular way. For Stacy, it's going to look a particular way. But I encourage us, even if it's tonight, sit down and think, what is all for you? Don't look at, remember you're running your race at your pace in your lane. And so as you're defining all for yourself, it has to be within that context. So can we have it all? I go back to this woman, and I am saying that for women, all is not a list. It is a complex, intertwined mosaic. And I would add, it is actually on a person by person basis. All these things we are seeing here and more need to be balanced. And that for women, but they currently operate in silos. So all for women is all these things for us in balance. But depending on your age, this the baby here may not be there. And maybe you don't iron, maybe you buy clothes that are wash and wear. But you see, you have to define what are all these things and how do you put them in balance. And the trick for me is putting first things first. I think it's Steve Covey who's written a book about putting first things first. And he talks about, if you have a jar, that you first put in the big rocks. If you put in the big rocks and they sit comfortably, then you begin to put smaller rocks or sand, they will find spaces between the big rocks. But if you put sand first and small rocks, the big rocks, which are the most important things, will be isolated. I remember a friend of mine who used to work for the World Bank once telling me, I asked him, why did you retire at 52? And he said he looked at the dashboard of his life. And when he looked at the dashboard of his life, he saw just how working for the bank had occupied the whole dashboard, yet his biggest rock, which was his family, had a very small, teeny, weeny space. And he decided that he needed to change that. Another thing that we need to do, I've talked about as leaning in, we need to get help. We need to delegate. And if there's anything else, we must all quit being superwomen. We must quit that superwomen club. Then all these things will be ours. So in conclusion, as a mother, a professor, a mentor, teacher of many, I, and of course, as a friend of many, I, in Maya Angelou's words, know we can all go out and grab the world by the lapels. We can have it all. It is not impossible. With humility, focus, hard work, we can do it and realize Lupita's statement that our dreams are valid. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mbote. You have done so much justice to the subject that we have at hand today. I think all of us are introspecting on what this means to us. Can I have it all? Can I define all for myself? And can I have a balance in all? And also how to go about quitting being the superwoman and learning to delegate and achieving a great deal more by being purposeful about the way that we live. To our attendees, I want to invite you to take a poll. Now that we've heard Professor, there will be a couple of questions that will be put on the screen for you as we prepare my co-moderators to ask Professor questions that have arisen during her presentation. And I'll quickly go over them. One, can we have it all? Please answer for yourself. Answer for yourself also. Are a baby and a husband a must-have accessory for me? Can I be a feminist in my kitchen, in my bedroom, and with my in-laws? Will I make it in heels in a man's world? Answer for yourself. And have you experienced discrimination at work on the basis of sex, your gender? So the poll will be available for you. Please answer. The results are anonymous, but it will be good to appreciate how we all feel after Professor's presentation. I would now like to call upon Mary Njau to ask Professor Mbote 3 questions that have arisen to her. Like I told you, Mary Njau works with the Attorney General. She is a young mother, she is an activist, and she fights for social and environmental justice, and she has a very progressive program. Mary Njau, the floor is yours. 3 questions, please. Please unmute yourself, Mary.
Yes. Yes, I have. Thank you so much, Professor. Yes, thank you very much, Professor, for your time and for your wisdom. We have really learned a lot. Personally, I am a mother of a 2-year-old boy. And I remember when he was 6 months old, I had the opportunity to attend, I was invited to attend a training, actually organized by a human rights organization. And the moment that I shared with them that I had to attend the training with my 6-month-old son and breastfeed him together with my nanny, unfortunately, they told me that they were not in a position to accommodate me. I protested. They changed their mind. So my question is, what, in your experience, what sort of social and legislative interventions do we need to enforce the existing breastfeeding policies? And secondly, what sort of social norms do we also need to change in order to eradicate the stigma that is associated with breastfeeding in public, breastfeeding at work? That is the first question. The second question is related to passing out opportunities in order to take care of the responsibilities which have been bestowed upon us as women. In your experience, would you share an experience where you had to pass out or to let go of an opportunity because you had to attend to a pressing demand related to a child or your child? The third question, I believe, has been answered on the advice you would give to your younger self, both professionally and personally. Thank you.
To answer those right away?
Yes, Prof, we can take those 3 and then call upon Christine Piga after that.
Okay. Okay, you know, this whole question of social and legislative intervention to ensure that breastfeeding interventions are given space, I find, for me, the discussion is wrong. Because we know that children are nurtured through breast milk. So why is it that we must go to parliament for people to recognize they grew up on breast milk? And I have actually, now at the University of Nairobi, we have this program on women's economic empowerment. And one of the things that's being done is actually looking at childcare. I am privileged to have done a lot of work with the Norwegians. And with the Norwegians, there was never an issue of bifurcating your mothering roles and your professional roles. So if you have a child, we take you as you are, because we do realize that you need to be with that child. And in fact, you have seen many companies now in Kenya are putting in place breastfeeding stations. A friend of mine, who I shall not name, was telling me in her place of work how women had to go and express breast milk in the car. And because the place is all wired, the askaris were training cameras on women as they went to express their breast milk. And you know, that's such a violation. So we must make women, what women need to do for their children normal. And I think that is also part of the woman of law. Because you see, the reason it is problematic is because we get into workplaces, and as lawyers, you wear the suit as you almost look like a man. So when you have a baby and breast milk wants to come out, you know, and you're in court, there is very little you can do. We must make our workplaces comfortable for women to actually go out, express milk, and for it not to be a big deal, and for there to be stations, even for storing that milk so that it is wholesome for the baby when the mother gets home. And I think to remove stigma, we need campaigns. We need to have, you know, law isn't the best place for these kinds of campaigns because law is male. And a lot of the structures we work with and in are male. You know, for many spaces of law, even women's toilets were not there. And you know, women not having a toilet can make you not go to work. So we need to talk about the things that make workplaces not encouraging for women to be in. And then I think what I tell my younger self, one is the issue of time. I would take more risks. Because you see, if you don't take risks, you don't know. You just might have made a big difference because you took a risk and you didn't sit. You asked me to give you one example of something I had to pass up on. I remember it should have been 2005. 2005, I am a restless person. So at a particular point in life, I begin to feel I've been in this space too long. Of course, when you see that I've been teaching for 32 years, you are wondering, restless, how and you've been, but you know, I've done many varied things. And the good thing with being an academic, I can take a sabbatical. So I remember in 2005, I was not happy with my space in life. And so I saw a job advertised. It was a program officer for an international organization. I just applied. I didn't think much about it. I just said, you know, I have applied. They called me for the interview in Ottawa, Canada. And, you know, I traveled with somebody else who was going for the interview. For the other person, it was really life and death that they get the job. But for me, I mean, I hadn't thought about it. So after we interviewed and then we had dinner, everybody went to their room. And then I received a call telling me, we have chosen you for the job. And I remember wondering now, what does this mean? I couldn't sleep that night because now I had not thought. And of course, now I learned, never apply for a job if you have not thought through what will happen when you get through it. So the next day, they couldn't see why I was hesitating because, you know, they were looking at my payslip from the university and the money that they were offering, and they couldn't understand why was I even having any second thoughts. And I remember them telling me that the job was going to be based in Singapore. But at that point, 2005 is when my older child was in standard 8. So he was doing his standard 8, was going to go to university. And I looked at the job and I knew it was going to involve a lot of travel. And it was in Singapore. So all I could imagine is my children with a Filipino maid and me gallivanting around the world. And I had to say no. And have I regretted having said no? Actually, I am happy that I said no, because I think I grew in many other different ways than I would have had I just taken the job.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Jackie?
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and thank you, Professor, for those very profound thoughts that you have been able to share, and also very personal experiences. I'd now like to call upon Christine Karen Figa to ask 3 questions.
Thank you, Prof, for this wonderful and relatable presentation. I've really learned a lot and I'm so encouraged. I am a mother and I have an 8-month-old baby, and oftentimes I have had to work late and even have to work over the weekends. And sometimes I'm overwhelmed with guilt and I feel like I'm a bad mom, and it really affects me even, when I'm at work. My question is, have you ever felt guilty about sometimes having to put your career first ahead of maybe other family responsibilities? And then secondly, how have you managed to keep the zeal and the fire, the passion to grow in your career and to achieve all these things that you've achieved with a husband and 2 kids? How have you managed to just, keep that fire burning? And lastly, how have you dealt with society's expectations of you, family expectations, with you as a status symbol? You are widely known and very many people respect you all around the world, yet you're a mom, you're a wife. How have you had to balance all that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carey, for those questions. Guilt. Guilt is a horrible feeling, because it tears at one's heart. And having a child is a great thing. Being at a job is a great thing. So how be it that the 2 things that you want to do clash so fundamentally? And I think that what I was talking about leaning in, you have to determine what do you want to do with your baby, and within your context of having to work late, how do you get time with the baby so that you don't lose, the baby doesn't grow up calling you Auntie Carey. I have a friend who went to do a PhD, and when she came back home, the child was calling her Auntie Mommy. And that is really, it tears at a woman's heart. But I think you must find ways of what is it that you're guilty about? Are you guilty about just not spending time with a child, or is it an imagined neglect? Because people expect you to be always there for the child. You can't live your life in everybody else's mirror. It is you to determine what works for you and your baby. Because if you can't please everybody. I have been fortunate myself because, being an academic, I think is the best career, because I've brought up my children as an academic. And when I had my oldest child, I was able to have quite extensive maternity leave against all odds, because I had a very supportive Dean Kibwana. And actually, Dean Kibwana, even when I went back, I was out of the timetable for a year. And when I came back, if there was a meeting that went beyond 4, he would say that I should go home because I have to breastfeed the child. And to my shame, I now began to take advantage, until one day Professor Kibwana met me with my son and was very horrified and asked, "Are you still breastfeeding this child?" Looking genuinely concerned, which of course was my bad because I was taking French leave. And then of course for my daughter, I had her when I was doing my PhD. And so she was intertwined. She was part of my, she was on one hand and the thesis on the other hand, or on my back as I wrote the thesis. And that is not to say that it was easy, but it just meant that I had the time to be with the children, because I would go, my older child would go to school in the morning, and I would work in the house in the morning, writing a thesis. You just have to really have a child programmed to sleep, so that when they are asleep, you do your work. When they wake up, you spend time with them at the sandpit. Yeah. And then how have I managed to keep the zeal? I think, again, it is loving what I do. I mean, even when I'm not happy with my employer, I have learned to distinguish between my work and my job. You know, job is a station, but my work is cut out. I am a teacher, I am a mentor. And there, even when I am at my most foul, when I go to class, I come alive because I enjoy teaching. And I think being passionate about teaching keeps me with the zeal to go to class. And even when I'm not happy, if I go to class, it's an antidepressant. How do I manage expectations? You know, I really don't think there are that many expectations of me. I'm a very laid back person. I don't feel pressure to conform to what society's view of success is. So I don't have to buy new clothes every so often. And one of the things I keep telling people is that I ensure that I remain my same size so that I can wear my good clothes. Because, you know, my clothes, I have invested in expensive clothes. I don't want to be tossing them out and buying others because I've put on weight. So in essence, I don't feel pressure. My family, both NATO and in-law and nuclear, don't pressure me, and I don't give in to pressure from people of what I should look like. If you have a problem with how I look like, that is your problem, not my problem.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Christine, for the questions. I think I'll jump in with a question of my own, Professor. Myself, I'm also a mother, but I'm a mother of teenagers, the eldest of whom is going to be an adult this October. And they have more or less left the nest. And I say this because they spend more time in the educational institutions because they're in boarding schools. And what one finds, and I'm going to couple this question with what I've seen Commissioner Dr. Masideche has asked, is as we approach our 50s, because that is where we are heading to our 5th floor, what should we prioritize as female lawyers? Can we now start making plans, or do we focus on the tombstone? And she has given the disclaimer, or she has disclosed rather, that she is in that particular age bracket. So can we begin to have new goals, new dreams, a new start? And how do we go about it?
You know, when your children grow and leave your home, you know, teenagers haven't left your nest, Jackie. They are with you still for a while. But when they leave, and even when they stop being so dependent on you, there is a sense of immense loss. Because, you know, we feel our lives as women a lot with what we do for our children. And I think when I talked about the tombstone, Dr. Deche, I wasn't saying that we are out and done. All I was saying is that we need to be deliberate about what we do, because we are moving, success, below 50, you are making money, buying houses, educating your children. So by the time you're 50, you know that if you had a dream to buy a chopper and you haven't bought it, you may need to manage your dreams. And you see, now you have to think about, what is it that I want to do? And I am reading, I'm doing a very interesting study called Tamati. Tamati actually addresses people who are in that space where your children have left home. And it is interesting what the authors, the Anzaya, say is that you can be fruitful and productive in your old age. It's just that the praxis of fruitful and productive is different, because you can begin, God may bless you with grandchildren, or you may actually take on a new hobby that gets you to plant seeds in other spaces. So I am not saying that when you get to 50, now begin to think of your tombstone, but you need to be deliberate. I cannot overemphasize the need for estate planning. If God were to call you today, because he can, how would your affairs be? Because you see, we will all die, and maybe we will live to 100. But we need to constantly live knowing we could go. And if we go, we need to be deliberate and planned about our departure, which is imminent. I don't know whether I've answered you, Jackie.
No, you have done a fantastic job, Professor. The question of children, but more mature children, as our children start getting ready to go to university and choosing careers, how much is too much interference in their goals and their dreams? We all want probably our children to be like us, probably in the same profession or in similar professions. But when does it become too much? Can we draw a line, or is that something that we each deal with on an individual basis?
You will discover that your children are not the same. Of my 2 children, my older child is a very, once he makes up his mind, it is made up. So he started talking about wanting to be an auto engineer when he was a little boy. And I thought he wants to be an auto engineer. That's every boy's dream, because cars are boys' things. And I thought it would die until he got to Form 4 and choosing university. Choice 1, auto engineering. Choice 2, auto engineering, up to 4. And you see, I am a lawyer. Of course, I'd have loved to have children who study law, but he went and did his engineer thing and he did it well. My second child is not like that, because she develops interest, and she's very quick to abandon interest. So by the time she was going to university, she'd actually been admitted for engineering. But I could tell she's going to be miserable, because that is not her. So she went in to do ICT. And fortunately, she went to a place where you could change, because at the end of it, she's very passionate about numbers and math. And so she was able to work on that. I think that what we do as parents sometimes, I don't know, our children don't grow up at the same pace as we grew up. So it is very difficult to talk about too much, because sometimes they don't know. So they need guidance, but they feel that they are mature. So you've got to walk with your child and just know what kind of child it is. I mean, the child is, and where you need to really help guide them and shape their directions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And some other questions I'm seeing, and this is from an anonymous attendee, and I've seen about 2 questions related to balancing your career, practicing as an advocate, but also thinking about getting academic qualifications, that is now moving on to study for your master's or study for your PhD. Is there a proper time to do it? Is there a way to, should we wait first and acquire some experience? If you're newly married, is that something that can create a tension in your life and in your marriage? And generally, how does one manage to straddle the areas of professional life as well as academia?
So the question of seeking further studies.
Yes.
And you know, I keep telling parents, even who take their children through law school, it is no longer, if you can afford it, let your child do their masters in law as early as possible, especially if they are girl children, because once they get married, then now the decision to take a master's degree is going to be mediated by so many other things. And many times it could actually be a dream that will never be attained, not because you don't have the brains for it or you can't afford it, but because you don't just have the time for it or you can't do it. And you know, I like to give the example of my mother. My mother is a very brilliant woman, and she had gone up to A levels, but with children, and she had the opportunity to go to university. But she keeps telling me, I was too tired with all the children. And you know, you can't quarrel with a woman who is tired. If you're tired, you're tired. You can't go to school. So in essence, I would say that there is no right time to say that you go to do your master's. But remember, if you are working, you are a mother, and you're trying to do a master's, be truthful to yourself and ask yourself, who are you cheating in the mix? As you try to keep all the balls, because one is going to fall definitely. And that's why a master's thesis that should take a semester takes 4 years, because there are other things that are calling. So I wouldn't say that there is any right time, but you need to balance. And even, you know, if you're practicing and you want to teach law, again, you have to be truthful to yourself and your maker. Who are you cheating? Because that's a question only you can answer. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's one question here from Chapkorir Penina, and I think it speaks to the tension between, and this is, I believe, within the marital union, the tension about finances. And for many lawyers, I believe this is a reality that either has caught up with them or will catch up with them when they begin earning more than their partner. How do you deal with that and the insecurity that naturally results from such a situation?
You know, there is nothing you can do about what a person begins to feel about you when you make more money than them. And of course, many people, there is even, for many women, they'll say that the spouse thinks that they've become haughty because they have more money. But I think it depends on the nature of the union and how the finances are organized. I learned a very important lesson before I got married from my auntie, who, God rest her soul in peace. And she was categorical that you should not put all your eggs in one basket as a family, that you should have the basket for the family, but because you as an individual have been blessed, and your husband too, you should have space to enlarge the family assets outside of the basket that is a joint basket. I know this is something that many people don't want to talk about, but joint finances are probably the biggest source of conflict. But if you agree that what we need with joint finance, if you have a law firm and you begin talking about joint finance, I know very many women lawyers who have gotten into trouble because money got commingled. So you need to have that place that is not within the family, yes, where you're investing for educating your children, buying a home if that's where you're at, buying a fridge if that is where you are at. But let us not have you buying a fridge with money that should be growing your business, or buying gas with money that's growing your business. So it requires you to be very planned, intentional.
Okay, thank you, Professor. There are so many questions about, well, life and career and family. I want to single one from Priscilla Nyokabi, and she thanks you for a great presentation. And she asks two questions. Is the world, Kenya in particular, ready for the empowered, balanced woman who has it all? And how do we handle the backlash of patriarchy? And her example is corruption, fighting back.
The world will never be ready for women. Women just have to take it. Because you see, when you already have rights, anybody else who is trying to come in is a threat. But I am not pessimistic that there are no men who see value in empowered women. If you think about it, if you have an empowered woman who can actually work with you to develop your family, the whole family is better off. So maybe what we are looking at is re-engineering our society, so that we stop looking at a situation where man provides, woman is provided for, but we look at collaboration and cooperation so that both parties work together. And you see, how can you determine that the person who you marry is for all times going to earn more than you, unless you self-censor so that you don't take opportunities that come your way? And if you do that, are you living true to your God-given mission? And you see, the hope is that there will be men who accept women who can actually go out, take the world and conquer it. Of course, backlash is always there, corruption. And you know, for women, we don't play very well in those leagues of corruption. So we are many times on the receiving end. So it's a continuous work. Remember I said that moving from man of law to woman of law is a continuous work in progress.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. I hope we can still continue with a few more questions because there are so many that are still pending. I have one here that I think looks very interesting, and this talks to the women who are not in the traditional marital or marriage setup. And I'll combine it with the women who are single parents. Maybe they had children when they were in university or somewhere along the line. And also those who have become separated or divorced. Anonymous attendee refers to them as having no zeal in life anymore, but I'm not so sure that is the actual situation. So my question is this: after we we have a problem in our marital union, and we are still continuing with our life, our careers, and our families, is there life after the breakup? And can you be a mess, what we call it a hot mess in today's lingua franca, and still be a success?
You know, you are using very wrong words. Who is a hot mess? I mean, and you know, the thing is that you get married. If the marriage doesn't work, a divorce is difficult. It is very difficult on women. And I think, remember I talked about seeking help, not trying to do it yourself. Because you see, you need to navigate that part. You know, you could even get married and your spouse dies. And then you must leave. I mean, otherwise, you might, it would be important to always have somebody waiting in the wings Should the husband die? Should there be divorce? And that's not how life works. I think as women, and this is where we really need to talk to each other and to have candid conversations with each other, we need to learn to be whole as women. Because I don't believe that a woman who does not have a husband is half. Because you see, she is fearfully and wonderfully made. So she's not a half woman. And I think it's the attitude that we have, that you need to have people, and sometimes we even sell cheap, because we need people to be in our lives when they are actually baggage and not adding value. So I'd say, let us find ways of getting into our inner wells and building resilience for women who find themselves, because you see, it's not necessarily the case that if a woman is married, that she's not dealing with some of the issues that the single parent is dealing with. There is an assumption that if you're married, you are immune. You may actually have a lot more challenges of a different kind. But at the end of the day, you want women to thrive as women. And that they can do by being vulnerable with people they trust and looking for ways of learning to cope with what life throws at them.
Thank you so much for that reassurance. I'm seeing the comments coming in that this is a really, really important discussion that we are having today. And I want to look at a different construct, and this one has been raised by Miriam Mugo. And she talks about the woman who does not necessarily feel that she wants to be a mother or she wants to be married. And she asks, does marriage and motherhood equal fulfillment? Would a woman be remiss to not pick this path? Having grown children and looking back on this, what is your view? That is her question, and she has put it in the Q&A.
I am grateful to God that I am married and that I have children, but I respect women. I have very good friends who are neither married and have no children. And I think that that is also a decision one can make. And again, it goes to the attitude in your mind. Why would you allow people to make you feel less because you're not married and you have no children? Actually, for me, because I have very personal and close friends who are not married, I have made it a very deliberate thing to be there for them as them, because they are there for me, my wedding anniversary, my husband's birthday, my children's graduation, whatnot. But I always tell them, we are never there for you, so allow me. And they are also, they push you off, because you see, you build a wall around yourself. But I always pierce that wall and I say, now you will let me be there for you. Because if I'm not there for you as you, there's nothing that I will ever celebrate with you. And you see, you are, even as you without children, you are my friend. It is not your children that are my friends. My children are appendages that have come into my life when you knew me as my husband. That doesn't change the fact that you are my friend, and your choice not to have children or to get married doesn't affect who you are.
Thank you, Professor. I'll take one last question, which I think is very pertinent to our discussion today, and it has been posed by Melen Mora, and she requests that you kindly address the issue of sexual harassment in law firms, which has now become quite rampant, especially with the female associates or the younger advocates being the major victims. Do you have a take on this? Are you familiar with what is happening, and are there things that can be done to alleviate the situation?
I know that sexual harassment is common. And I think it is a silent scourge because many people who are violated feel that they cannot report because they fear losing their jobs. Last week, we had this colloquium where we were celebrating the Stanford professor who died, Deborah Road, who wrote a lot about ethics. And in my challenging us as Kenyan lawyers, I asked what ethics means to us. Does it just mean wearing clothes that we are told to wear, not wearing peep toes? Or is it about the culture we have in our office of treating people with dignity? Just because you have young girls in your office, and you know, I would hope that there are no older women who are sexually harassing younger men. And if they are sexually harassing younger men, they should also be called out. Because, you know, sexual harassment is an issue of power, that you exercise power over somebody and therefore you take advantage of them. I know that the Law Society was developing a code of conduct on sexual harassment. But for those of you who know my work, I am a person who looks at law in society. I think law is not the way to deal with bad manners. Bad manners have to be dealt with from the heart. Because even, you know, if the law is there and I know I'm not gonna get caught or I will not be punished for it, I will not do right by the law. So in essence, what I would say is, yes, the code against sexual harassment is important, but more important is a culture of respect for difference and not abusing power that we have, even when we can abuse it.
Thank you very much, Professor. We are almost doing 2 hours into our webinar today. I will request you to probably give us a parting shot, I guess one for all of us as women of all ages, of all colors and of all backgrounds, and also spare a word for the men who have also joined us. And maybe you could have a comment or two. We will be running the poll after you have given your comments as I've requested right now. And you could indicate to us whether we can continue for another 2 or 3 more minutes because the questions still keep coming in. So please, Prof, let us hear from you for all the different ages, as well as the men who are joining in.
I think what I tell the women of all ages is that you need to get into life knowing that you have all it takes. And that if you're not full, you're not going to get, if you're not whole, you're not going to get whole by attaching another human being to your life. In fact, you may end up creating 2 unwhole beings. So first deal with being being authentic in who you are and being aware of who you are, so that when you get into a relationship with people, if you choose to get into a relationship with people, then you will be getting in knowing that it is a work in progress, that nobody can make you whole if you're not whole. So if your only essence in looking for a partner is for them to make you whole, then please quit searching, because only 2 whole people can then lead a life of productivity. I think for the men who are here, I'd like to actually, first of all, appreciate the fact that you are here, because it is very important when we have these discussions for us to talk to each other, not at each other. And I am very aware that men also have, you know, when we talk about the problems that women face, men face problems of a different kind. Because of masculinity, they are prisoners of a particular mold that they're expected to be in. I think for men too, it's important to begin, like if you're in a relationship, ask yourself, are you a victim of the machismo masculinity that prevents you from getting help from a person you live with who could actually lend a hand, because you believe that you are the person who must provide and who must do everything. So it is a question of looking at how can both genders work together for a better society.
Thank you very much, Professor. I will request our Secretary General, Mary Kiruti, to put up the results of the poll, and then I'll give you an opportunity to comment on them. Can we have it all? I think you have convinced everybody that yes, we can have it all. A baby and a husband, a must-have accessory? Oh, attendees think no. Can I be a feminist in my kitchen, my bedroom, and with my in-laws? And the answer is surprisingly yes. And will I make it in heels in a man's world? Yes. Have you experienced discrimination at work on the basis of your gender? Unfortunately, the answer still remains 62%. And we hope that that is going to be an area where we can reform and get to a more balanced situation where we eliminate discrimination altogether. Prof, I want to give you an opportunity to comment on this, as well as some comments that have come. Allow me to seek your indulgence on this. And the questions and the comments that are coming relate to women who try to bring other women down, trying to, within the career setup. That's an anonymous attendee. And Betty Sungura has posted this question. Prof, your presentation is profound. Women are deemed their worst enemies. How would women who undermine one another at the workplace be advised to coexist? And once you comment on that, I believe we can then wind down.
You know, this whole issue about women not supporting other women, I think it is overblown. How many men disagree at work? Why don't we hear about that? And I think the reason that we hear a lot about women not supporting other women at workplaces is because they are not, in many workplaces, women are only becoming a majority now. So if they are little thieves, they are overemphasized and overblown. I personally don't think that women are other women's worst enemies. I mean, when I have actually run for dean, and I didn't get support from my women colleagues, many of my women colleagues. And, you know, I understood them. You know, I was not coming out to them as a woman because I was challenging the dominant narrative. I was actually, you know, in a sense, I empathize with them because I can see, I remember one woman asking me, why do you take yourself so seriously? Because I wouldn't let any slurs on women's position pass. And, you know, I will say, by God, I take myself seriously. Because if I don't take myself seriously, how are the young women in the boardroom going to take themselves seriously? So, Betty, I think the reason that we have women not supporting others is not because they hate other women, but again, always remember the man of law, the context that you get in. Is that a woman's context? You know, the workplace that is a very competitive, not collaborative space, is that a woman's space? And you know, you're then put there to compete. And in fact, when you see a woman competing with men, maybe you don't even see her as a woman. But again, just empathize with them and hope that they will see the light one day. And even if they don't, because if you know, a woman will even tell you, you shouldn't be running. Why are you running for these positions? And you know, when a woman is telling you that, they are actually looking at themselves in a mirror. I can't run. So why should Jackie run? You get what I mean? So it's really not women hating women. It is the context within which we find ourselves in, but that too shall pass.
Thank you, Professor. I think there's no way we could probably exhaust this discussion in one afternoon. I've seen so many accolades for the presentation that you have given to us. There are so many people who have been able to see themselves, learn quite a bit about how to navigate this thing that we call life, career, and family. We are truly appreciative, and we do pray that God blesses you. We request, Prof, that you share with us your presentation. There was a request by someone, if you could share the books that have inspired you other than the Bible. I know you mentioned a few of them in your presentation. And there is one who said, I can't remember what her name was, that she feels like calling you Auntie Pat because of the way you have shared from your own personal experiences. We've had judges, we've had top executives, we have had academia following us in today's presentation. I do not think we could have had a better presenter at a time like this when we are celebrating International Women's Month and Day. And I think that we could end there. I'll give you a moment to give us your parting shot. And after that, I will request the Vice Chair of the Mombasa Law Society, Christine Kipsang, to give us a vote of thanks. Thank you so much, Professor.
Please journal, put down notes about your life. Don't one of the things that I have benefited most from is a book that is called One Line a Day. Even if I can't write a lot, it is just one line. How was I feeling? What was I dealing with? And you know, I've done that, I think, for about 8 years. And it's interesting to see what was I dealing with on 12th March, 2016. And then, you know, that's when you see this too shall pass. Because you see, when you're there, you think this is the big thing. On the slides, yes, I will share. And please respect copyright. Intellectual property is to be respected. On the books that have inspired me, when I share the power, I will share a number of books, because when you ask me what books have shaped me, there are many, very, very many. So I will think about, I think one of the ones that you should read is that Fast Things Fast by Steve Covey. I always bought that book as a gift for my PhD graduates. So please get Fast Things Fast. So Jackie, you can buy it when you graduate with your PhD, as you will. We will have another book to buy. And I will think of 2 more, but Fast Things Fast. And it should be available at the bookshop at Yaya. Yeah. And I have really enjoyed being here this afternoon. And I hope that you can keep this conversation going.
Thank you, Professor. I can confirm that we'll keep the conversation going. And first things first, I think I'm landing at Yaya this weekend to make sure that I get a copy of that book. And I hear the challenge to graduate a PhD, and I've taken it up, and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey of women, life, career, and family, and talking with my fellow village. Thank you so much, Prof. I want to call upon Mrs. Christine Kipsang to give you a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Jackie. On behalf of Mombasa Law Society, that is led by our chairman, Matthew Nyambena, and a council of 19 members, I would like to thank our great speaker today, Professor Mbote. I'm sure all of us will agree with me. She was the best speaker to start this MLS ladies discussion series that we are starting now. We had 343 members logged in. And you know the way advocates are not homogeneous. We have senior advocates, we have our peers, we have young advocates, we have law students, we have clerks, we have secretaries, we have even our clients who joined us. So we are really, really grateful, Professor. Your nuggets have really, really built us up, and we are so grateful that you made time for us out of your busy schedule. We also want to thank your great belief in God, and we say, all of us, we have heard today that God has the final say in your life. So it is not another human being. We are all created, and so God has the final say. So just tell him in your prayer closet what you want to achieve as a goal, and you will get it right in your doorstep. The other issue I want to say is we want to thank University of Nairobi. Our director at the University of Nairobi Mombasa campus, Dr. Sarah Kinyanjui, is the one who got us this great professor to be on this forum. And we are so grateful for the comments we have received. Professor, we have not gotten even one negative comment. Everything is a tick. Yeah, so you would have gotten 100 out of 100 out of this exam. Thank you so much. And the participants who have joined and they have told others, we want to make MLS the place to learn great wisdom, to learn about confidence, to learn about law, to learn about life skills. And so we want to thank you, and please spread out the word. We will be able to share the presentation and the recording. I also want to thank each and every person, especially Mombasa Ladies Chapter, who organized this, and the Women in Law Committee that is led by none other than Jacqueline Wayeya. Thank you so much. You did a superb job. Your PhD is coming. Thank you, Mary Zhao. Thank you, Carey Tiga. Thank you, Mary Kiriti, and the entire MLS fraternity. We have great friends, and I'm sure we'll be supported as we shine right from this corner of the coast region all the way to the entire nation, because we want to show great leadership right from where Mombasa Law Society started and the LSK in general. We are aware that we are going to have the celebration 110 years since MLS started. And this discussion series is one of them. So I call upon each and every one of us to be participating so that we can break the challenges and remove all barriers or the difficulties that we may have. So I want us to put the salute that we have learned in this year's theme, the role of women in leadership, and the way we are challenging the inequalities that we have seen in our lives, and we are saying we can do it. So with all that we have learned today, let's put it in practice by actually making sure you really understand who you are and you are able to actualize it. So I really want to thank you for being here, because these 2 hours you would have done something different, but you chose to spend it with MLS. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you all. You may all feel free to leave at your leisure. And our Secretary General is going to end the meeting now. I pray that God blesses you, and please keep safe in the time of COVID. Kwaherini.